I'm National Geographic explorer and journalist Paul Salopek. For more than 10 years, I've been walking the Earth, traversing the pathways of the first humans who migrated out of Africa. But I'm never alone.
My name is Zhang Mei. I was born and raised in Yunnan, China. I'm a mom. I'm an entrepreneur, but most importantly, currently, I am a PhD student studying environmental science.
I always have someone with me, a walking partner from the place or region I'm passing through.
I love the rhododendrons, the walnuts, the wild mushrooms and ham, and the people who enjoy this land in Yunnan.
Someone with a unique local perspective and insight. Someone with stories to share about the place they call home, about the major issues of our time, about the universal joys and challenges of our shared human experience.
What I hate is crowded tourist buses that I think that glides over Yunnan and don't get a chance to see what I love.
Throughout this global foot journey, walking partners have shared personal narratives about the climate crisis, migration, cultural endurance, history, our vital connections to the natural world, and much more. Yet these big topics are always grounded in personal experiences that to me are as relatable as love, hate, and the weather. This episode marks the beginning of a two-part series in my inaugural venture into the world of podcasts. We journey to Yunnan province in China, which has one of the most beautiful landscapes I've ever walked through. From the canyons of the Yangtze River to the subtropical Gaoligong Mountains and the handmade villages pooled in valleys far from cities and superhighways, it's been a journey of boot-level discoveries. We visited some of the last isolated communities still practicing human-scale sustainable agriculture in China's gargantuan industrial economy. And our trek through this corner of China in particular highlights the truism that by slowing down and observing the world carefully, you can shatter old stereotypes of fast travel and discover new lifeways and landscapes that are often overlooked when you move too quickly. More after this on love, hate, and the weather.
I grew up in Xiaguan, in the mountains, by this river called Xi'erhe. It's a river that drains Erhai Lake into the Mekong River. My parents were workers building the hydropower station on that river. And so we grew up in these little huts by the river, and it was really fun. Running up and down the mountain was what I did for fun as a kid. And little kids, we didn't really have toys. It was a time when China was still quite poor. So I think my dad made $20 a month or something like that he had to support the entire family. And my mom passed away when I was very little. The huts we were living in were very, very simple. Now I think of it, they were built with these woven bamboo sheets. And literally you can hear everything that's next door. So if someone's cooking, you can smell it. If someone's fighting, you can hear it. And over the bamboo sheets, there were newspaper plastered over them. So I was just learning to read. I could read, you see Chairman Mao's picture on the wall and something about what he said. It was definitely a memory of that era. I would look at the mountains further down across Erhai Lake and think, what is behind those mountains? You know, what is life like beyond those mountains? I never knew, so I was always curious. I wanted to go beyond the mountains and find out.
While I may be walking through the global headlines of our times, my daily encounters with ordinary people at boot level keeps things pretty grounded, pretty intimate, and very human. What do I hear over and over again in these conversations across the world? Well, whether it's a camel nomad in Ethiopia or a conceptual artist in China, we always get down to the universals. Who do you love? What do you hate? And, of course, the weather. It was a treat to be able to walk through southwestern China with Zhang Mei, who's from Yunnan province. She was born in Yunnan and she grew up in Yunnan, and she is phenomenally enthusiastic about her home province. So much so that she has devoted her life to sharing it with people not just elsewhere in China, but around the world. And that was like the best possible of walking partners, because here's somebody who is just eager to share knowledge and to share daily joys. Everything from the cuisine to the distant blue mountains of the eastern Himalayas that were kind of glowing on the horizon. It was special. Yeah, May, do you remember how we first became acquainted?
Of course, Paul. Our mutual friend Evan Osnes introduced us. It was 2 years into COVID, and I hadn't been back to China for a long time. And you were already months into your walk from the Myanmar border. I didn't want to miss you in Yunnan, so I braved the 2-week quarantine and flew to Lijiang. Did you know? Marina, your walking partner at that time, arranged a mail van to pick me up from the airport. It was painted green with a logo of 中国邮政, China Post. I got in the van and there were all these letters and packages in the back of the van. I sat next to the driver and we took off. It was this little van that shuttled me to you in Fengke. This was a tiny little village 4 hours north of Lijiang.
That's right.
By this beautiful river. Yeah.
You came special delivery.
Indeed. With the mail. We had a wonderful meal at this little restaurant, and you ordered that very special dish, a whole bucket of chicken stew. It was delicious. Beautiful village next to the upper reaches of the Yangtze River, I remember.
Yeah, it was a particularly gorgeous stretch of the walk through Yunnan. You chose well, whether, by quarantine accident or not. And, you had nothing to worry about in terms of your fitness, as you recall, because my memory, what sticks, is you rocketing up the side of a mountain out of the Jinsha River Gorge and, straight through, over boulders and up through brush and whatnot. And so
right, that was my random suggestion.
No, you did great. Yeah, no problems on that front.
Oh, you are too kind. You are too kind.
And the afternoon's golden, right? And the river jade green. It was just a magnificent tableau to mosey through on foot.
So, Paul, do you remember? I forgot the name of that village, actually. It's right after we crossed the Yangtze River.
Yeah, right across from Fenghe. Yeah.
Then they told us there was this wedding in the village. And one wedding is practically the occasion for the entire village and possibly visitors from next door villages. I think it was held on the basketball court of a primary school or something, or middle school in the village, right? And we showed up, all the men and women, grandparents, little kids, practically everyone was there. And there was a hospitality hosting crew, I think, somehow casually connected to the newlyweds. Maybe it's their family members or best friends or something like that. They would be walking around the crowds with trays of candy and sunflower seeds and cigarettes and kettles of tea and Yeah, with cups to offer you tea or any snack you want. Oh, everyone's welcome, all free of charge for the audience. And then in the middle of the basketball court, they would, all these ladies from, I think they must have a hobby group as dancers or something like that. They were beautiful ladies. They're all of Mosuo ethnic group, which means they're all matriarchal. This is the only matriarchal ethnic group in Yunnan, in China. And that means the family traditions carried on from the mother's side. The children would take the mother's name, they stay with the mother, grandmother, and even if husband can go out and leave and still come back. Anyway, so those ladies were dancing with their arms linked. I thought it was very pretty. And then the newlyweds would have to bow to the audience. And as they were bowing, all the fireworks would explode off into the sky, lighting up the whole venue. It was quite an occasion. I really quite enjoyed it.
Oh, it was just a fiesta encountered in the best way by accident, right, along the trail. Those are the best kind.
Yeah.
And the hospitality of being invited into that intimate space, right? A family celebration. When you're a total stranger, right? Not just somebody not from the next village, but not from that province in my case, not from China in my case. It's very special. One of the engines that keeps this long walk from Africa to South America going is the energy of meeting strangers who then become friends. I would not have reached anywhere near this far, talking to you from China right now, if people I didn't know didn't share everything from a spot of shade under their tree to their lunch to their homes with me. And they do this every day, day after day after day. And the walking partner's role in these interactions, these random encounters, is to kind of be a cultural bridge between the walk and the people inhabiting that particular landscape. Walking partners aren't just translators, navigators, guides, logisticians. They're friends who open the doors and the windows to their home cultures. And without them, this project would be much impoverished.
We had the best weather when we were together. It was just the kind of mid-November fall weather in Yunnan. Sunny, bright sun, blue sky. A bit cold late at night or early in the morning, but it was just this golden rays shining through the trees, and the trees were losing their leaves. And the lake was just beautiful, jade blue reflecting the sky. Yeah, perfect fall weather.
I agree. It was a weather like a blessing.
Do you remember, actually, when we were crossing the Yangtze River, I remember the jade blue, very flat water by the side, and then there was this bridge, blasting sun over our head, right? And we were walking, I was walking behind you, and then all of a sudden you stopped. And I was like, oh, he stopped. And you took off the belt from your pants. And I was like, what is he doing? The next moment, you whipped out a knife and you started drilling a little hole in your leather belt. Do you remember that? And I said, what are you doing, Paul? And you said, well, need to move the belt 1 inch in. This is the mark of 800 kilometers from the border. I remember that very clearly. I'm like, hey, this is a good program for weight loss.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so an advertisement that appeals to a very small audience, but yes.
It was quite funny.
Yeah, belt cinching milestone on the walk across the world.
We ran a little low on water on the second day, right? And then we walked up to this beautiful nashi wooden log house, big house, right? To ask for some water.
Saying we're here to ask for some water. Hi.
And on the veranda, there were two Mosul ladies sitting there, and they were just like this beautiful complexion, and they were talking to each other, nicely dressed in their pink headscarf. I couldn't help but to take a picture of them out of respect. Of course, I remember before in the villages, you ask for permission to take their photo, and then you try to get the photo to them as much as you can. And so I got their permission. I took a beautiful photo, and then I turned around and I said, look at this photo. And then they took out their phone. And all of a sudden I realized, oh, I forgot. A decade ago when I was walking areas like this, they barely had electricity. And now they had WeChat. And so we could airdrop through WeChat at that moment. And right when they were opening up WeChat, I saw on their phone TikTok. I had to chuckle. These were 75-year-old Mosul ladies in the village that we walked to, right? Just the time change from a time when they had no electricity, no landline connecting the villages, to TikTok. It was a matter of a decade.
One of the things that I see on foot across the world is the spread of culture and technology through globalization. Even in the remotest high valleys of the Western Himalayas and the Pamir Mountains of Tajikistan, where people are still pushing yaks around mountain ranges and over snowy passes, people have smartphones. And so we're connected in this way. I think never before in history has humankind been wired together in this hive mind via modern technology. It's unprecedented. It's a change in the collective unconscious that I don't think anybody really can measure or weigh. It's so new. At the same time, the walk slows me down and slows my walking partners down enough that we kind of can cut through that buzz, that hum of globalization, to get back to the bone of what it means to be human. And that usually takes the form of sitting somewhere under a tree or sitting across the table with someone with a tea, and just having these very meaningful one-on-one interactions. That's a very old, original way of relating with each other.
This walk, these 3 days that we shared together, it really to me showcased the kind of experiences that's possible on the Tea Horse Trail. Now let me say a few words on the Tea Horse Trail. It is a network of mountain trails in Yunnan and also other provinces in southwest China. And Yunnan sits on this eastern extension of the Himalayas, very mountainous. So for hundreds of years, Yunnan people use these mountain trails for transportation of like tea, salt, all sorts of goods. So Paul, the stretch you and I walked through is part of this ancient trail network. However, these trails are no longer in use today, as you can imagine, all the highways and high speedways cut through the province. And I personally think they deserve another chance at its glory. They can be reconnected and make this long distance hiking trail so that locals can continue to make a living along the trail. And also urban Chinese from the cities, after COVID, they're desperate to look for a way to slow down their life, to reconnect with nature. And I think this would be great. And so this is what my PhD is for, to figure out how to connect the Tea Horse Trail as a long-distance hiking trail. for me, 3 days was mostly very, very good. The scenery is really beautiful. The conversations were really interesting, and the local people were wonderful. But when we got to the second night, when we stayed in this place that was really cold, I started feeling kind of, privately kind of happy that I only have one more day and then I could go back to somewhere really warm. And I was just thinking, but Paul is going to push on through this cold, through this snow and ice, and with no end in sight. What keeps you? I mean, I had this question when I was with you, and I still have this question. What keeps you going?
Storytelling. The questions raised by storytelling keep me going because they don't really have immovable answers, right? You can ask the same question over and over again, but the answer moves. It moves with you through your life. So that's what keeps me going. 3 days is a wonderful teacup full of the walk. And I think that, with a little bit more time, these kind of stressors that we all carry around. I mean, I have my security zone too, my comfort zone too. I do. It's maybe a little different than yours or anybody else. But I think with time, those kind of things become manageable and allow us to focus on these questions that are the big questions that we're all asking of ourselves and in the world. Mei, what did you take away from the walk?
I think what I really took away was something you said. You told me later. I'd have to paraphrase it. That walking is like glacier. It moves very, very, very slowly, but it moves mountains. And I keep thinking of that in my work, in my running, in sort of just in life. Sometimes you get too busy and rushed. You kind of go like, oh, why am I not there yet? Why am I not winning this? But come on, chill, slow down, and enjoy the moment, one step at a time. I think you taught me that.
It was a great privilege to be able to walk through Yunnan with one of Yunnan's daughters, Zhang Mei. Mei is just such an enthusiastic personality, such an optimist, that no matter how difficult the day was with getting lost or backtracking or tripping down a steep river valley, she was indefatigable. She was always upbeat. She's like a human spark plug. And I take this good energy that she's given me as I continue my journey through China. I'll be walking through China for the next 4 or 5 months en route to Russia and Siberia. Want more? To read my dispatches spanning a global walk from Africa to my current position in China, or to peruse our collection of photos, videos, and audio recordings along the trail, visit natgeo.org to learn more about the Out of Eden Walk. If today's conversation inspires you to share your own stories in place, then I encourage you to visit Home Stories, our crowdsourced global storytelling map designed to bring together a multitude of perspectives around a common theme of where we call home and why. This podcast is a production of the National Geographic Society Impact Story Lab in collaboration with National Geographic explorer Paul Salopek and the Out of Eden Walk. It was developed by Chris Dye and Taylor Schulke. The production team is led by executive producer Devar Ardalan, together with senior producer Eli Chen, fact-checker Julie Beer, and sound designer Hansdale Su. For the Impact Story Lab, executive producers are Vanessa Surreo and Caitlin Yarnell. Director of Production and Development is Chris Dye. Director of Impact is Sarah Joseph. Senior Producer is Mary Stevens. Producer is Taylor Schulke. Production Manager is Maida Furanti Kohea, and our production coordinator is Jessica Wang. Our theme song was composed by Push Audio, and I'm Paul Salopek, continuing my journey with the Out of Eden Walk, currently traversing China.